Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be discussing about weekly contest third question, which is most frequent IDs. So we are given array. This is the array, and then we are going to take the frequencies, and then we need to insert. Suppose let's say we have this particular value where we have 2. For this I am going to increment the frequency to 3, and then after that I am going to move to towards this particular node where I have the index frequency as 2. So I'm going to increment the frequency of this particular value to be 2, and then again I'm going to get back to 2, and then for this I'm going to decrease the frequency to my 3, and then again I am going to consider 1. So for this I am going to increment the 1. So after doing each step for this particular frequency and taking the nums, we need to find at each particular step, we need to find the most frequent id which represents the count of most frequent id in the collection after the ith step. That means we are going to consider the, suppose let's say we have 3 ids with the value of 2. Then we are going to consider whatever the count which is present in this particular collection, we are going to return the answer. Suppose let's say for this we are going to consider the frequency which is going to be nums of I. So this is going to be my range. It is going to take from 1 to 10 power 5. So I am going to consider that, and then after that I am going to increment to frequency of I. So for each step I am going to increment this particular thing, and then after incrementing I am going through for each step I am going to do this, and then after incrementing for each number take maximum of frequency. So I'm going to take each step. For each step I'm going to increment the frequency, and then after incrementing the frequency I'm going to take the maximum of this particular number. So each number present in frequency. So I'm going to consider all the things. So for this it is going to be 10 power 5 for each step, 10 power 5, and then the range is going to be 10 power 5. So it is going to be 10 power 5 into 10 power 5, which is going to be 10 power 10. So that I cannot consider. Why? Because it will exceed the time limit. So for this we need to optimize this particular solution. For each step we cannot optimize, we cannot remove the steps. So for this we need to optimize this particular thing where we are checking the maximum of the frequency. For this I'm going to say, instead of taking this particular thing, I'm going to consider two things, which is going to be the frequency, which is going to store the frequency of this particular element, and then I'm going to consider the map where it is going to have the frequency of element, and then I'm going to consider the set of elements which have this frequency. So this is what I'm going to consider. I'm going to consider the frequency as well as a map where it is going to have the frequency of the element, and then I'm going to consider the set of elements whichever have this frequency. Suppose let's say I have a frequency, the one is going to have 3 frequency, and then one is going to have 3 frequency, and then 2 is going to have 3 frequency, and then 3 is going to have 4 frequency, and then 4 is going to have 4 frequency. So for this particular case the map is going to be like this. So the 3 frequency is going to have this particular set, which is 1 and then 2, and then again 4 is going to have this particular set where it is going to consider 3 and then 4. So this is going to be my structure for the map. And then let's say I want to, we are going to consider 3 more cases. Suppose let's say I want to decrease the frequency or I want to increase the frequency. So suppose when I want to increase the frequency, so for this, whenever I want to say 4 increase by some 2, then 4 frequency is going to be 6. So for this, the structure is going to be, I am going to remove the fourth element which is present here, and then I am going to insert in the frequency of 6 which is going to contain the element of 4. So for this, I am going to remove the previous element which is present with the frequency of 4, and then this particular 4 element is going to be removed, and then with the frequency of 6 I am going to insert this particular element. And then after doing this, we are going to take the last element which is present in the map, which is going to be the frequency, which is going to be 6. Suppose let's say again I have one more query, it is going to be 3 decrease by 4. For this I am going to remove this particular 3, and then I am going to add into the 0 which is going to be 3. So this is going to be my answer. And then let's say this is empty. So if this particular frequency is the maximum, then I am going to consider this particular map. So we should not consider this particular frequency. So we are going to remove this particular frequency from map itself whenever the set becomes empty. And then after this I am going to insert this particular frequency with this particular element. So let's go through the code for this particular question. So we are going to take the frequency, which is going to store the frequency of all the numbers which are present, and then I am going to consider the map. This is going to be my frequency, and then this is going to be my elements whichever has this particular frequency, and then this is going to be my answer which I am going to return. And then this previous element is going to store the frequency of the previous frequency, and then this is going to be my current frequency. And then for each step I am going to take the 𝗪𝗓𝗏, and then let's say I have the previous frequency as previous. So for this, suppose let's say if the previous frequency set is not empty, that means I am going to remove the that particular element which is present with the 𝗪𝗓𝗏 value. So I am going to remove that, and then after removing, let's say if the size becomes empty, then I am going to erase it from the map. And then after erasing it in the map, I am going to increment the frequency of this particular 𝗪𝗓𝗏 with the frequency of whatever step we are given. And then after that, I am going to get the current frequency, which is going to be current. At this particular current frequency, I am going to insert the particular nums, which is 𝗪𝗓𝗏, which is the element which we are going to insert in this particular map frequency. And then let's say if the map is empty, then if map is not empty, then we are going to consider the last element which is present in this particular map, and then we are going to consider the frequency. Suppose let's say we have empty map, that means we do not have any element which has a frequency. That's why we are going to consider it as 0, and then we are going to return the answer. Yeah, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching the video.